Hello and welcome. I'm Michelle Paver and we're going out live on YouTube and Twitch TV. If you want to be part of live chat while I'm on air, just go on YouTube to the live chat area and start typing and somebody will pick it up. Not me, because I'll be talking. And if you want to tweet, just use the hashtag Michelle. Hashtag Torak. Hashtag Torak. And later on, I'll catch up with some of the live chat. Well, I hope all of you are well, reasonably well and okay, wherever you are in the world, and at whatever stage of lockdown or easing out of lockdown you happen to be in. Sometimes I think getting out of lockdown can almost be harder. As for me, well, apart from looking after my mother, mowing her lawn, not my favourite job, I've been having walks in the woods and also tackling, my least favourite task in writing, which is chapter 1 of any book. This is chapter 1 of Wolfbane, and I'm looking forward to writing the book, but I hate chapter 1s. Anyway, before I get to your questions and your comments, and we've had some wonderful ones from all around the world, we've got another free giveaway for you. So take a look at this.
Signed first editions are collector's items, and today on Michelle Live we've got not one, not two, but 3 signed first editions of Viper's Daughter to give away. There's no contest, no competition. You don't even have to be the first person to enter. To be in with a chance of winning, all you need do is to send an email to the following special address containing your own postal address. That's all. All emails and personal information will be deleted after the contest closes in a week's time on Monday, the 3rd of August. So, here's the special email address you should use. viper@michellepaver.tv. That's viper@michellepaver.tv. Get emailing now and good luck.
Well, that was amazing. I love that library. That was amazing. I wish I had a library like that. So here we are. There's one of the first editions. You've got 7 days. And just one thing I should say is I will just sign and paw print the books unless you would like me to also put your name in it. And if you would like me to dedicate the book to you, by all means do. And just put it in the email, put the actual name that you want me to write in, if it's your first name or your nickname or whatever. But just be aware that for collecting purposes, I think I'm right that when you dedicate something, in other words, write someone's personal name, it destroys the value, the commercial value of the book. But I'm happy to do it either way. If I don't hear anything other than your address and your name, I'll just type in, I'll just sign my name and paw print it, of course. Oh, that's one from Daniel. Oh, I remember this. This is last month's. So there we are. Yes, I do always write a handwritten postcard to go with the book, so you will get something handwritten from me. But just let me know how you want, if you want me to sign the book to you or not. I took a long time explaining that. Let's see if I can be more fluent when I get to your questions. As I think I explained last month, we get so many these days that I can't guarantee actually answering your question on air or reading it out. But do be aware that I read every single word of every question or comment that comes in. First of all now, let's move to this. We have a little clutch of questions, or comments rather, about the Gothic stories, the ghost stories. The first one is from Simon. For Thin Air, looking forward to reading Viper's Daughter. For Thin Air, how long did it take to write? Well, it took about a year, Thin Air. That was a difficult one. And where is the setting? Well, it's set in Darjeeling. It starts in Darjeeling, and then the mountain is Kanchenjunga. And you'll find out more about that in the author's note at the back of the book. But and yes, I did go to Sikkim and India to research it. James now, who adores my ghost stories, thank you. This is interesting. I am one of those strange people who has seen dead people and had poltergeist activity all around me all my life. He then goes on to say, nice things about my writing. Your writing brings a subtlety to the horror, which makes it far more believable. Well, you ought to know, James, since you're an expert. And the setting is the biggest character. Thank you for that. But wow, I envy you, I think. I hope you don't mind all these interruptions from the other world, but how interesting. Now we have one from Mike Luckman, who I used to be a lawyer with when I was a lawyer. A blast from the past indeed, Mike. Very much enjoying Wakenhurst. I'm glad for that. I hope you're still enjoying being a lawyer, if you are one. So thank you for getting in touch, Mike. Now let's see. I'm just trying to turn over the pages. Sorry, I have these things printed out. Florence, here we are, has just finished reading Wakenhurst. Found it utterly compelling. I haven't stopped reading all day in the need to find out what would happen. I am so glad, Florence. That is pretty much what my aim was in writing the book, so I'm delighted that it worked. Thank you for getting in touch. Now we have 5 lovely comments. No questions here, just comments. Theo, he and his family love the Chronicles series. Just finished reading Viper's Daughter. As amazing as the rest. Can't wait for the next 2. Well, you're going to have a little bit of a wait, but in November, beginning of November, when the paperback of Viper's Daughter comes out, just so you know, at the end, we will be putting the first chapter of Skin Taker. So you'll find out then what happens in Skin Taker. Well, pretty much what the premise is. Here's one from Sienna. You have changed my life. How lovely. When I first read the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness, I was around 11 or 12, and I never stopped reading them. I'm now approaching 19. And she goes on to say, among other things, you kindled a respect for the natural world and the history of humanity that made me who I am today. Wow. And you also say, as someone who adores books but struggles with reading, Ian McKellen's readings of these books is utter perfection. I so agree, Sienna. Here's a lovely one from Fox. I don't know which country he's from. He apologises for his English. He says it's his second language, but my goodness, Fox, your English is fantastic. Apart from thanking me for writing Chronicles, the books made me stay up at night and made me love reading books. They also taught me, this is Fox speaking, to value life and nature, but also helped me to cope with loss and some of the darker times of life. I thank you for making my childhood easier. Well, I'm really glad I did, Vox, and thank you for getting in touch. That's what a lovely comment. Now we have Alison, who is a pretty amazing grandmother, actually. Grandmother to Fergus, who has just turned 9. And Alison spent some time in Waterstones trying to find the right book for a capable but reluctant reader. Yes, well, we've heard of those. A book has to capture his imagination. Well, absolutely, for him to engage. Absolutely right. But apparently he's enjoyed Wolf Brother and was given Spirit Walker and then got, as part of his recent birthday, Soul Eater. Yay, happy birthday, Fergus. Your hard work paid off, Alison. And you say at the end, what am I going to do when he's read the whole series? Well, you do know, don't you, that there is Viper's Daughter, which came out in April, and then Skin Taker, which is the second of the sequels, comes out next spring. And I'm just starting to write, as I was bitterly complaining, Wolfbane, I should say. I've been immersed in it all day, which is why I keep stumbling over my words. And finally, we have, of the comments, that is, we have a lovely, very long one from Hannah Holmberg in Sweden. And I won't read the whole thing, but I have read it, Hannah. I'll just pick out a few bits. Hannah read the first book when she was 9. She's almost 18 now, and she lives in northern Sweden. And I remember being younger and running around in the forest, pretending that I was in Torak's world. And there's a lot of forest in Sweden. You're jolly lucky, Hannah. And when she discovered that there was going to be, after a 15-year gap, another book, I screamed when I saw that you actually wrote a new book about Torak and Ren. And it feels like I haven't stopped since. Hannah also wants to be an author. Well, good luck with that, Hannah. I really hope that that works out for you. And she says, almost 10 years later, and I'm still in love with the world you created. I'm so pleased And she ends up by saying, please just tell her how grateful I am, and think of a girl sitting in northern Sweden crying her eyes out over a wolf and his 2 humans. May the guardian run with you, and also with you, Hannah, and good luck with the writing. What a lovely comment. Now we've got 3 sort of miscellaneous ones. One is from somebody who's been in touch before. This is Libby, who's, from the sound of it, a brilliant teacher. And Libby was, I think I mentioned Zach's, one of her pupils is called Zach, and he wrote a great review, actually, very wolfy. And let's just give a shout out for Stelling Minis Primary School, I hope I pronounced that right, and all the children who have worked so hard in lockdown and are now back at school, also working hard. And also here's a shout out and 3 cheers for Libby, the teacher, who is, from the sound of it, amazing, and also has impeccable taste in books. We also have one from Alexandra, who actually, yes, I remember reading her comment and question last month, and she's just pleased. And also a pat on the back for the elf, who did an excellent technical job. I agree. He doesn't get enough praise from me. He's very pleased. He's just said he's very pleased. And Esme, I hope I pronounced that right. This is a writing question. Yes. Now, you like Chronicles, and you also like Gods and Warriors and Viper's Daughter. How do you plan your books? Is there a way you plan them? Yeah, well, there is. Although it's not sort of fixed, it can change. But and I was thinking about how to explain this. This may sound, I'll have to be brief, but in essence, whatever book I write, whether it's a ghost story or Chronicles, I think, what's the problem the characters face? You know, what's their aim? It's usually a problem. It's like, let's take an example, Soul Eater, you know, wolf is taken by the enemy. That's the problem. They've got to, the aim of Tarak and Ben is to get him back. And then I think about what's going to get in their way. What are the obstacles that are going to get in their way? And that starts to give me an idea of how the story goes. And then I think, well, do they get what they want or don't they, and how? And then at some point, and this is a long, messy process. It can take months or weeks in the case of a novel. At some point, I try to put it all on one piece of paper. I think I've mentioned this before, but here's another one. Here's Soul Eater. This is the what I call the flow sheet, and it sort of says, well, at the beginning, wolf goes missing. And then there are sort of obstacles, things like cold and wind, because they have to go to the far north. The Soul Eaters, they're a pretty big obstacle. Mistrust, or I don't want to give too many spoilers away if you haven't read Soul Eater, and then the climax. So if I keep it all on one piece of paper, and you can see I've been scribbling all over it as I was writing the book, but that sort of keeps me roughly with the right idea as to where I am in the story. And then, of course, I write a longer plan, but not that long, maybe about 20 or 30 pages, but it can change tremendously. So good question. Yeah. Now we move to these are all questions about Chronicles of Ancient Darkness or the Wolf Brother books. We have one from Harriet. She enjoyed listening to her teacher read Wolf Brother, I'm glad. How long did it take to think of the idea of Wolf Brother? I had to think about this actually, because the way it came about was, you know, I'd found this book that I tried to write at university called The Jagged Land, and there was a boy and a girl and a wolf cub in it. I mean, it was a different story, and that gave me the idea to sort of take those elements, and then very quickly I thought, well, I think it was only a day or two that I thought, yeah, I'll set it in the Stone Age because I'd always liked that. The actual coming up with the basic idea, I think, only took, for Wolf Brother, took a few days, because I remember I was quite excited and I just wrote a little summary and I sent it to my agent, otherwise known as Elf. And I found it. I'm preparing for this. I looked through my files, and this is the original sort of idea. It says superseded original idea kept for curiosity. And it is quite curious because this was dated the 31st of January 2003. And I was trying out different titles. I'd scribbled on Wolf, Wolf Boy, but I'd actually typed in, the one I sent to my agent was Wolf Brother. And I didn't have the names. It was boy, girl, wolf. And there were some things that were different, like the fire opal was actually called the Bloodstone. But the main story, it's only 3 pages long, but the main story is there, actually. That doesn't often happen, I can tell you. But it did with Wolf Brother, so there we are. Now, Benji, nice short one. Will they be made into episodes or films? Well, I'm guessing you mean the Wolf Brother books. And the answer is we really hope so, because I announced a few months ago that we've done a deal for a TV series. So, and they are working very hard. They haven't started filming yet, but there's lots of hard work going on the script. So fingers crossed on that. You will hear it if they start filming. Joe is a solo freelance game designer and wonders if he could turn the Wolf Brother books into a game. I'm afraid you can't, Joe, because the rights have all been tied up. So sorry about that, but thanks for asking. We have one from Mike Amos, who is a regular. Hello, Mike. Thank you for your comments. And your picture, actually, which is both pictures, which have a sort of flavour of the Pacific Northwest to me. Anyway, they're lovely. And the question, Mike, is the audiobook for Viper's Daughter out yet? Yes, absolutely. It's been out. It came out at the same time as Viper's Daughter, and it's available on Amazon. So I hope you can get it. The other question was, do you have the cover art for Skin Taker? And we're well on the way towards that. Brilliant design from John Fordham. It's not completely finalised yet as to exactly what goes on the cover, the lettering and things. So, but I'm hoping to do a cover reveal at some point on one of the shows. Michaela, I hope I pronounced your name right. Thank you for bringing me back into the marvellous world of Chronicles of Ancient Darkness with Viper's Daughter. She first read it when she was 11, read Wolf Brother. Now I'm rereading all of them again. I even named my dog after Wolf. Actually, his name is Lupo, because they're from Italy. I think Lupo sounds wonderful. Now, there's a bit that we're not showing because we don't want a spoiler, but your question is about Bale. And the question is, did I come up with what happens to Bale when I was writing Spirit Walker, or later, did I always know? And the answer to that, it may surprise you, but I always knew. Even before I wrote Wolf Brother, I knew what was going to happen to all the characters, including Bale. I don't want to include any spoilers. So, yeah, that's it's quite hard being a writer sometimes. Again, no spoilers, but there we go. George is wondering if after Wolfbane there will be any spin-off books, say a prequel or a standalone book based on a single character like Dark or Far or Shamik. I almost certainly not, I'm afraid. I really, an idea of a prequel doesn't appeal to me, and never has actually. And it would just be really weird to write a book set in the Stone Age without Torak and Ren and Wolf. So I'm really not thinking beyond Wolfbane, I'm afraid. Kezia has one. Are you planning on writing a similar thing? Are you planning on writing a new book or series set in the Stone Age after you finish the Wolf Brothers series? When I finish Wolfbane, I really do think that will be it. I've got ideas for other books, but not that. And here's one from, would you believe it, Torak. Hello, Torak. It's a bit weird talking to you by means of 21st century technology. Have you seen the Chronicles of Ancient fan art by Bitaya Moka? And I don't know if we can show a picture, but it really, now that I'm not familiar with that name, but I'm pretty sure I very much recognise the style. because when I was first writing Chronicles, there was a wonderful Japanese fan, I won't mention her name in case she doesn't want me to, who did some amazing artwork. Brilliant picture of Finkedin, I remember, and lots of others, and she used to send them to me. In fact, I met her when I was at a signing in Tokyo. So I think I am, because I don't think two people could produce those. I might be wrong. They're lovely. They really are. I think they really capture the feel. And Torak also wants to know, do pets exist in Torak's world? And, well, hunter-gatherers do sometimes have pets, in the sense of they find an animal and they get on well with it and just have it hanging around their campsite or something, and they don't eat it. So I've always thought they probably would. I mean, some clans are very nice to their dogs. I mean, and in Viper's Daughter, after all. Speaking of which, that's Freddie. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's not mine. He's my neighbour. He's a Norfolk Terrier. He's lovely. He's quite loud. He's a tiny dog, but he's very loud. Thank you, Freddie. Yes, Spike the hedgehog, in a sense, because Dark keeps him with him for a while, is like a pet. I've never really been able to bring it into the story, but there's certainly nothing to stop them having a pet. Alison Pearson is a primary school teacher at Priory Primary, and she's been reading Wolf Brother and Spirit Walker while they're back at school. They've thoroughly enjoyed them. You've given me a whole list of questions. Some of them I am going to duck, because some of them you don't need. You have to read the book to find out, So I'm not going to tell you what you have to read later books to find out. So I'm not going to tell you, for example, will Ren and Torak get married, because you need to find out. You can find that out in the later books. What happened to the demon bear? Certainly not going to tell you that. Some of them, though, I can. Can Tokaroths come back, but rather than being evil, be good? No, not really, because there's a demon in them. And their own mortal souls have been done away with, pretty much. So not really. So that's tough. What was your inspiration for Torak is another one. He just sort of walked into my head, really. That's some characters do. So I didn't really have, something that gave me the idea. What did you choose? Why did you choose this storyline? What was your inspiration? Well, that would take quite a long time to tell you. But I can say that if you go to my website, michellepaver.com, and go into something called The Cave, which has all sorts of quite interesting things in there, you will find something. It's like a little account of why I wrote Wolf Brother, and that explains it. And it involves meeting a very large bear. That was part of the inspiration for it. So thank you very much for all those questions. That's really nice of you to get in touch. And we also have 2 questions from Andreas Lundqvist. I think you've come on this program before. You're Swedish, but you've got the most amazing English. Yes, the first question is based in Wolf Brother. When Far is dying, he says to Torak, "Your guide will find you." Shut up. Freddie sometimes gets annoyed with birds and things like that. So he's a really nice little dog, actually, and he's a very good guard dog, as you can hear. Yes, Far says his guide will find you, and Andreas wants to know, well, could it have been any wolf who would help Torak on his journey? Or was it important that it would be a cub? And in a sense, did Torak's father know that Torak and Wolf would eventually meet? It certainly couldn't have been just any old wolf. Wolf is a special wolf. And you're quite right. You've picked up on the fact that sometimes Wolf gets a certain wisdom in him, as you say. That's because he's the guide. He's a special wolf. Far didn't know that it was going to be exactly that wolf, but he knew there was going to be a special wolf who would find Torak. So that was a really great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked that question. And finally, you mentioned, Andreas, that I'd written a story, you're quite right, about a boy and a wolf set in the Viking Age. Is there any chance it might get published? No, absolutely not. I wrote that at Oxford when I was in my early 20s, and I was still learning to write. So it's not very good. I mean, bits of it not bad, but it doesn't hang together too well as a book. Also, the other reason is that I've taken bits for Wolf Brother. I mean, there's one bit which actually isn't bad writing when the hero of that book goes, who's called Torkel, because it's set in the Viking Age. He goes over a waterfall, and that was based on something that happened to my father when he was a young man. And so I've taken bits from The Jagged Land, as it was called. So no, it's never going to get published. I think yes. And now finally, yes, we have two sort of miscellaneous ones. Alia, I hope I pronounced your name right. This is amazing. You're 12, and say thank you very much for everything you've done. And then you say something. I'm going to read it because it's like a little poem almost. You say lockdown hasn't been easy. In fact, it's been really, really sad. We found a crow. It couldn't fly, so we took it in and cared for it, just for one day. When I gave it little trickles of water, it really seemed to want to live. But it didn't, and so I had to watch it die. And I wonder what really happens to animals when they die. This crow was so beautiful. So I think it became part of an ocean because its eyes were so blue. And maybe I'll see it again. You never know. Isn't that beautiful? And then she goes on to say, thank you for making so many people happy. And please keep writing for us all. And there's her picture of the crow. I just thought that was really beautiful writing. It brought tears to my eyes when I read it, Alia. Yeah, you're right. Lockdown is hard, and I think at times it is sad. Sometimes very sad for people. The thing to have to tell yourself, as I'm sure you are, and we all do, is this pandemic will end. This will come to an end at some point, and it's a comforting thought. And something else for you is that crows are clever. They're clever animals, and I think it probably knew you were trying to help it. So although it was dying, at least it knew someone was trying to help it, and it wasn't alone. So thank you for sharing that. And finally, Simon, on a slightly brighter note, Simon has been rereading books, and I think he's talking about the Wolf Brother books. He likes rereading because to know what the story was. I kind of know what you mean by that. I love rereading, and actually that prompted me to sort of look at my bookshelves and think, what have I reread recently? So I have reread in the last 10 days or so The Aspern Papers by Henry James, who is a difficult writer but amazing. And I got very annoyed. I read in the paper recently, some journalists were saying, oh, nobody reads Henry James. Wrong. Lots of people reread Henry James. I've been read a very good modern novel, Tessa Hadley, somebody I haven't read before, called Late in the Day. This is really good. Really enjoyed that. Something called, yes, I got this from the British Library. I had to order it specially. The Night Side of Nature, or Ghosts and Ghost Seers. This was written in 1882, I think, and it was a massive bestseller. It's a sort of real ghost story compilation. This is, and it's very, very small print. But I did read it and enjoy it tremendously, and I love the title, The Night Side of Nature. No wonder it was a bestseller with that title. And then finally, I reread Comet in Moomin Land. My copy is completely falling to pieces because I bought it when I was 10, and that's 50 years ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So there we are, rereading, the joys thereof. So now I think we've managed to get through the questions in record time. There's quite a lot been happening on live chat. I'm afraid I'm always concentrating on the camera, so I don't tend to notice it now, but we're picking up on things. Empire of Books, yay! Hello, Ryan sent a letter off, so I'll just say hello and hope you're well. Actually, a question, is Skin Taker going to hurt? Well, it hurt to write. I don't know. I think Wolfbane might hurt. I wonder if the demons exist. This is Charon, I hope I pronounced that name, that make people evil. There is angel-like entities that make people act good. Well, if you believe in angels, then you probably believe in demons. I don't actually believe in either, but there we are. We've been rereading the books. Amy, fondly recall when I met you a decade ago. Wow. Thank you. I'm very glad to hear about that. Excellent. Chris, have you ever considered doing a book about the real world inspiration? Yeah, like a behind the scenes thing. Yes. My editor and publisher has sometimes suggested that, and I think it would be really hard and quite annoying actually, because I'd have to get all the facts right and sort of, and I can't remember half of the stuff where I got the inspiration from, and then it would be a bit sort of flat because it wouldn't be a story. So I'm not sure about that, but interesting that you're interested. Here's someone from Mexico, from Nayarit in Mexico. How are you? Well, I'm fine, thank you. And that's your dog, I think. Oh, that's gorgeous. I wonder if your dog is as noisy as Freddie has been outside. Sean, how long did it take to write the first book? It took about 8-9 months, I think, something like that. Wolf Brother. Morgan, I wrote you a letter years ago when I was young. I still have. Oh, yes, I'm glad you got the letter back and the postcard of me with Torak. Yep. Your reply. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad you got it. It's always nice to know. That looks like amazing artwork, actually. Where did you get the idea for Tokaroths? Well, that was based on an African belief in the country where I was born, which used to be called Nyasaland and is now called Malawi. And they were called Tokolosh. And it was, it was a belief, but it was also, some people tried to make them by sort of stealing babies and then bringing them up miserably. Quite a scary belief. Jade, do you remember when you visited the UK Wolf Conservation Trust and there was a wolf mask competition and mine won and I was a judge and I signed it? Yeah, I do remember that actually. I can't remember which particular wolf mask you had, but yes, oh yeah, that was quite something. Thank you for getting in touch. Wow, I'm so glad these things are remembered. Excellent. Was the mother of Wolf the one that took in Torak, or was it a different wolf mother? Russell, this is an amazing question because, I wanted that to be the case. And I actually kind of planned it to be the case. And that's why in Wolf Brother, there is a rock which is shaped like a sleeping auroch. And I thought, at some point Torak can find out. But then I worked it out and I thought, that doesn't work in terms of wolf biology. Torak's 12. That would be a very old wolf having cubs, and I know that's probably being a bit too literal, but no, I don't think it is really. And the last one here on live chat from Laura. I've been a fan of yours since I first read Wolf Brother. Jumped and danced around the kitchen when I heard about Viper's Daughter. I'm so pleased. I pre-ordered it in September with my birthday money. I am so delighted. That's absolutely excellent. Well, I hope, Laura, that you enjoy Skin Taker when it comes out. And if you want a sneak preview, the chapter 1, you'll be able to have a look at that in the paperback in November. And I hope you enjoy Wolfbane when I get round to writing it. I shall have to, because I think that's all we've got time for now. But thank you very much for keeping in touch with all these really wonderful comments and questions. And I'm in awe of those of you who are writing to me in a different language from your own, because it doesn't show. Your English is amazing. Thank you also to Elf, who's done these wonderful pictures and all this technical stuff. And thank you to my publishers for keeping going in the pandemic. But above all of you for getting in touch. You are a creative and imaginative lot. Keep the questions coming. Go to michellepaver.com, click on Ask, and fill in the form, and I will answer as many of your questions as I can, as time permits, in the next programme. You can also keep up to date with me on, let me get this right, Twitter at Michelle Paver, and YouTube and Instagram. So in the meantime, goodbye until next time. Do look after yourselves, stay well, and as always, happy reading.